Yes, he's followed.
I've never noticed this.
Yes.
The front line here for the longest time has been these ancient alders here, and they're at the end of their lifespan. But with that in mind, 15 years ago we planted their replacements, these Port Orford cedars in the front there. And behind them, I mean, alders have a lifespan like humans.
Look at those seeds.
If you take care of them, you might live to 80 to 100. If you don't, you'll top out at 40, 50. These guys are just over 60 years old. But the maples behind them, which will become much larger, and you'll see much bigger specimens than that, they'll go for several hundred years. So that's why you need to think in terms of 100 or more years when you're managing the forest. So we got the young Port Orfords up front and the old maples behind them. So there's practically no time wasted in this forest. Something's always going on. As one goes down, the next one comes up. And the job as a tree farmer is to understand that process and work with it as intelligently as possible. So let's walk around the edge and the dog. So the only reason I stopped here was so folks can get a look at this alder in here. Probably one of the largest alders you'll ever see. It's a wolf alder, meaning when you call a tree a wolf tree, it's a tree that grew up without competition. You see that a lot in the east where they had sheep grazing and individual trees in the middle of a meadow, and then the sheep are gone and a forest grows up around it. And you walk through this forest of young trees, and all of a sudden there's this monster. Like, wow, how did this grow here? Well, it preceded all the other trees, and that's why it got so big. We've got alders at all stages of life. We've got them, that's the oldest one we have, 60-year-olds here. All these from here over are 40-year-olds. And then right in here, we've got some 5-year-olds. These alders here, and alder is our specialty tree. That's the tree we really focus on here because we have more of that than any other species. It's also the one we've learned the most about. We grow and harvest all the other species, but alder's kind of the money tree here. And these are fairly young. They were just little trees when we got here. But I had thinned this forest without knowing how to thin probably 15 years ago, and I thought I thinned it out too much, and the reality is I probably didn't thin it out enough. But this is different than a lot of alder forests you'll see as you drive along the road where they're just packed together, and they don't ever fully develop into really nice trees. And these, if I'd done a better job, some of them would be twice as big. They're all the same age, and all the weakest ones have already been taken out. So,
do you want to blast that thing down?
There's some nettles, some ankle-biting nettles.
this area we call ancient maples because it's got the really big trees. But even though we only have 100 acres, I kind of treat this as if I was managing the 200 million acres of the National Forest, in the sense that we have roadless areas, wilderness areas, we have multi-purpose managed high recreation areas, and so this is kind of the roadless area. It's the steep, very wildlife attractive area, especially because we're so close to the meadow. So you get a lot of those edge species that like to go in and out, not just deep forest, but this is pretty much what an old-growth hardwood forest would look like.
That's scary.
All this is ice storm damage from Martin Luther King weekend.
Yep.
This area was absolutely crushed. We were here.
But this is not a really good timber tree because it's so convoluted and thin, but it's multiple trunks that are kind of wrapped around each other. Okay, so we're going to move on down to the agroforestry. We're going to leave the native forest and get into our agroforest.
Did they start? Yeah, they did.
Fruit trees and nut trees in here. We wanted to get more light in, so we took some of the scrawnier trees off the face. That's our sun line. That's south, and it's very hard to get light through here. But we don't want to cut the forest down, but we open it up so that we get at least some broken light in here, so that this area can still be productive. And this whole area is full of all sorts of different kinds of nuts. We got a heart nut there that has lost its leader due to sapsucker, so it's going wide. This is a butternut right here. This is a whole row of hazelnuts. That was part of agroforestry experiment to create forage for chickens, and that's the only time those berries go. That is yeah, bigger, a big iron.
On one in Rochester.
Same afternoon, so I'm not so happy about that.
Hill around it, go all the way to the bottom of the forest. And up here, we're going to do a lot of harvesting there next year, because if you look at it closely. And then down here you have agroforestry with the walnut trees. And then down below them are the berries. We got raspberries that don't seem to like it there, but blueberries that do better. Hayfield, a little wildlife pond. And on the other side of the creek here, we planted 3,000 trees for a wildlife restoration project for salmon habitat. So that was grazed by the neighbors' cattle up until about 12 years ago. And then we entered it into a program with the USDA Conservation Service. Before you looked down there and it looked like a meadow, and now I see trees. In the far end, all these, you can see all the young trees. You used to be able to see the barn from here. You can't even see it anymore. It's gotten big enough. But we probably have 70 walnut trees over on that